DJs, let's talk about capturing content at your events. Should you go ahead and splurge thousands of dollars on a mirrorless camera setup? Or is your iPhone good enough? I'm going to tell you what I personally use to capture content in my events and explain to you the pros and cons of every camera that I've tested. And I've tested a lot. So today on DJ Tech Tips, let's get into capturing content at your events. Regardless of what kind of equipment you use, I just want to hammer the point home that you should be capturing content at your events. Now, what you use to capture that content is completely up to you and your budget. In the past, I've used my iPhone, I've owned an Osmo Pocket 3 amongst other cameras, so it doesn't really matter what you use, it's how you use it. I'm also not going to go over every available option to you for cameras because one, I like to give you my personal point of view with my personal experience. Also, I don't own every camera in the world, so I can't reasonably give you an opinion on something that I haven't even played with. Before we get started, I do want to make mention that if you don't know how to use your camera correctly, I don't care how much money you spend on the greatest mirrorless camera with the best lens. If you have no idea how to use it, your content's going to suck. Remember, the more cheddar you throw away at something like this, the more complicated it gets. Videography is not easy, and I give kudos to pro videographers because learning a mirrorless system and figuring out how to get it to work well, especially in low light, is a real pain in the ass. But the point I wanted to make is I don't care what camera you choose, if you get one off this list, if you find one doing your own research, invest the time into learning how to use that camera. Because if you don't, like I said, you could spend all the money in the world on the best stuff. Your content's still gonna suck. So remember that you should be shooting content and learn how to use the equipment that you're purchasing because you want the best content possible. Kicking it off, we're going to talk about mirrorless cameras. Now, mirrorless cameras are going to give you the best quality you can possibly get, and depending on your settings, give you a really cinematic look. Beyond the awesome quality that mirrorless cameras are capable of capturing, there's a whole slew of accessories that you can add on to your camera because it has what we call a hot shoe. A hot shoe is a little place on top of your camera where you can attach a flash if you want to take photos, you can attach a shotgun mic if you want better sound quality, you can attach a light for those low light situations. Hell, if you want to attach all three of those things, you just buy a cage for your mirrorless camera and have at it. Mirrorless cameras are what the pros use, but they do have some downsides. The biggest downside to getting a mirrorless camera setup is the investment into the equipment. Okay, mirrorless cameras generally just come with the body, so you have to buy a lens. Lenses aren't cheap. On top of that, you want to buy accessories like a microphone, and you need an SD card, and as you start figuring out what you need, that price just keeps going up and up and up, and you can really spend an unreasonable amount of money on a mirrorless camera setup. So once you get over the sticker shock of the price of a mirrorless camera setup, the next real downside is the learning curve. Professional mirrorless cameras are a tough camera to shoot with. Sure, you can set it on automatic and let it do its thing. However, if you want the best quality video, you want to adjust those settings yourself. And that takes a lot of time and effort to learn how to properly use the camera, not only in well-lit situations, but in low-light situations. I had to invest a ton of time in learning how to properly shoot with the mirrorless camera. And then I had to teach my team members how to properly shoot with a mirrorless camera. Because again, you can just pick it up and shoot, but you're not going to get that awesome cinematic quality that you're looking for. The next thing about mirrorless cameras is they're not all built the same. For video, you want to get something with really good autofocus. I personally use a Sony A7Cii II. Sony's autofocus is amazing. Before I had my Sony A7Cii II, I used the Canon 6D Mark II DSLR. The autofocus on that wasn't that great, and it took a lot of effort to keep the focus of the frame. Of course, like anything else, the more money you spend, the better the autofocus is going to be. But again, we're getting back to high price items. So realistically, if you don't want to learn how to use a camera and you really don't feel like spending the money, mirrorless is not for you. What you also have to figure out is what resolution do you want to shoot at? Is 1080p good enough? If that's the case, then I really wouldn't spend the money on a super high-end mirrorless camera. If you wanted to shoot 4K video, at that point I would spend a little bit of extra cheddar on a really nice mirrorless camera because not all cameras can consistently shoot 4K video without overheating and turning off. Generally, the more expensive of a camera you buy, the better they are at handling 4K content. There is a lot to consider when it comes to the world of mirrorless cameras, but if you invest the time and effort into it, you can't get any better. But you're looking at an investment of about a couple $1,000s. Damn! Are they worth it? Yes. My recommendation is get a mirrorless camera unless you don't really want to put the effort into learning it, which I don't blame you. It's not for everybody. So we're going to talk about a camera that's a little easier to use and can get you kind of the same quality for a fraction of the cost. The next option we're going to talk about is a point and shoot camera, specifically the Canon G7X Mark III. Now, I'm going to be really honest. I love this camera. It's super easy to use. Leave it on automatic and just let it do its thing. It's phenomenal in low light. It focuses pretty well, but it does have some drawbacks. For one, it's advertised that it can shoot 4K video, and it can. However, it can't shoot 4K over a long period of time. So if you're looking to get multiple clips or very long clips, the camera's gonna overheat and shut down, and you're not gonna be able to get those really long extended clips. If you're shooting short clips, you can get short 4K clips with no problem, but if you wanna do something a little longer, you're gonna have to go down to 1080p. Whack. Even though this is a point and shoot camera and you can leave it on automatic, you do have the ability to put it into manual mode and adjust your settings for the best picture quality. It also has a mic input, so if you wanted to get a shotgun mic, you totally can. The only downside is there's no hot shoe to mount it on, so you'd have to buy a cage in order to mount a mic on top of your Canon G7X Mark III. But the internal mics aren't that bad, to be honest with you, and for a price tag of $800, this really isn't a bad option either if you don't want to go full mirrorless. You're going to get pretty good quality content. It does great in low light. And at the end of the day, you're just spending $800 on a camera as opposed to thousands upon thousands of dollars. There's also not a very steep learning curve to it. It's relatively simple to use. It's small. It's compact. Battery life isn't that bad. It really is a great all-around camera for content creation. As a matter of fact, it was made for vloggers. See? The screen flips. You can look at yourself and record yourself doing whatever you're doing. The Canon G7X Mark III is a phenomenal camera. Now, when you're looking at this camera, you're gonna see a Mark II option. Stay away from that. That one's the older version. It doesn't work well. You wanna get the Mark III. Now, another great option is the Osmo Pocket 3. My favorite part about this camera is it comes with a built-in gimbal. Now, what a gimbal does is it helps keep your video smooth. So when you move the camera, the gimbal moves with it to keep the video nice and steady so you don't have shaky video. It shoots 4K footage in horizontal mode and 3K footage in vertical mode. And if you buy the Creator Combo, you get this nifty battery handle extension as well as the DJI Mic 2. If you wanted to shoot something like a vlog and the camera was at a distance, you don't have to yell at it. You can just clip your DJI Mic 2 to you and record crystal clear audio wirelessly through your DJI mic. It's really cool. In my honest opinion, I think the Osmo is one of the best cameras you can get for the money. It handles low light like a boss. You get steady video with the gimbal. You can shoot in 4K resolution all night long without worrying about the camera overheating or shutting off on you. And even if you didn't want to use the DJI Mic 2, the internal microphones on this camera are still really, really good. So for around $700 all in for the Creator Combo, you really can't get much better than the Osmo Pocket 3. Now, the only downside to this camera is the gimbal has a little bit of a learning curve and can be somewhat of a pain in the ass when you're not used to using it. But once you learn how to use the gimbal and you get it all sorted out, this thing is smooth sailing. It's automatic, you set it and forget it, you just flip it on, press record, and capture whatever you want to capture. And last but not least, we're going to talk about the camera that you keep in your pocket with you every day, your smartphone. Yes, you can capture content on your smartphone. Most high-end smartphones can shoot 4K video and do really well in low light. That's one of the major selling points of smartphones, is you have a camera in your pocket at all times. And every manufacturer is fighting to make the best possible camera on their higher end phones. Now notice how I said higher end, because if you're using something like an iPhone SE or a budget Android, I would not recommend to use that to create content and put that on the internet for your prospective clients to see. The quality isn't gonna be there. And after all, when you're showing content to your clients, you want it to look as great as possible. So I would say spring for a pro level phone like the iPhone 16 Pro or Pro Max or the Samsung Galaxy S24, something that has a really, really good camera. Now realistically, smartphones aren't much cheaper than a dedicated camera like a Canon G7X Mark III or an Osmo Pocket 3. However, you can get a small monthly payment when buying a pro-level phone, so it's cheaper to pay off over time. My point that I'm trying to make is that if you can't afford a dedicated camera, it's just not in the budget this year, you can use your smartphone. Just make sure you're using a high-end smartphone. And the cool thing about smartphones, like the iPhone 16 Pro, is you can download an app like Filmic. Filmic is phenomenal for making your footage look amazing. There's also a very minimal learning curve. You can make it as hard or as easy as you want. You can use the stock camera app. Set it to 4K, press record, and let it go.
That was easy.
Or like I said, you can download Filmic and really dive deep into the settings and create really awesome content. You can buy gimbals for smartphones, you can buy microphones for smartphones. There really is endless possibilities when it comes to a smartphone. So although I recommend getting a dedicated camera, at the end of the day, if you have a high-end phone, you will get great content out of it. Let's talk recommendations. Unless you have the budget for it, I don't recommend a mirrorless camera. They're not easy to use, they're super expensive. You can easily go down the rabbit hole and spend thousands of dollars on a mirrorless camera. And unless you're really gonna dedicate the time to learning how to use it, it's not worth it in my opinion. However, if you do dedicate the time to use it, then absolutely get a mirrorless camera, especially if you have the budget for it. If you don't have the budget for a mirrorless or the time, or you don't want to invest the effort, get something like the Osmo Pocket 3. This is hands down the best camera for the money. At $700, it shoots 4K video, it has a built-in gimbal, it's gonna be great. It does awesome in low light situations. If you get the creator combo, you get a microphone with it so you can shoot vlogs. It really is a versatile, well done piece of equipment. Now we're gonna get to our not recommend list. And if I'm being very honest with you, I would not recommend spending $800 on a Canon G7X Mark III. Although it captures really nice video, for $100 less, you can get something that captures 4K video with a gimbal. This thing doesn't have a gimbal, and unless you have a steady hand, your video is gonna be shaky. Also, the autofocus in the G7X III is hit or miss. The autofocus in the Osmo Pocket 3 is phenomenal. Is the G7X III a bad camera? No. But would I recommend it for what we do? Absolutely not. And the next thing on the not recommend list is a smartphone. I don't recommend that you use your smartphone. If that's what you have, and that's all you have, then it will get you by. But if you're using your smartphone, I would highly recommend saving a little bit of cheddar from every event to at least buy something like an Osmo 3, especially if you don't have a high-end smartphone. If you made it this far through the video, I'd say thank you for watching. If you found anything useful, please like and subscribe. I have a bunch of videos on my channel talking about the tech that we use as DJs, with a lot more coming down the pipeline. So again, thank you for watching. I'm Seth from DJ Tech Tips, and we out.